funny John Romero story. In replay, I drew a panel of me looking at Doom, on John's
Yeah.
screen for the first time, and kind of realizing that my 2D Prince of Persia 3 is not going to excite publishers, at that
Oh,
moment in 1983, kind of as the
yeah.
reason why there were only two Prince of Persia games in that first trilogy. So I drew
Yeah.
that panel, but it didn't really happen that way. In fact,
Oh.
I this is funny. I actually met John for the first time a couple of years after that in an elevator at
Oh.
GDC, and we were going up together, and didn't know who he was, but he introduced himself and said his first words were, "I wrote you a letter in 1985."
Really?
And in fact, the second fan letter, not the first, the second fan letter that I ever got for Karateka in 1985, when I was still at university, soon after the game shipped, was from John Romero,
Oh my
who was
gosh.
he was 17. He was living with his family in England. He's I think he said in the letter, uh, I'm stationed here. I'm not a GI. I'm just I go to school here. And so
Yeah.
he asked me a lot of technical questions about programming for the Apple II and how
Oh
I'd done
my
the scrolling in Karateka.
God.
And so I answered the letter, but then I didn't think about it. And of
Yeah.
course, after I met him at GDC, I went home and I pulled out that letter, kept it, and
Of course.
saw that it was signed John Romero. It's like, okay, that was John Romero.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so lovely though. I love that, like, carrying on as well. Like, just the fact that you inspired him, and
And he's
it's
inspired a lot of people since.
yeah, and you've also inspired a lot of people ever since. And it's just that's such a beautiful sharing of just the joy of making games, the joy of being creative and what you do together. Um, but like, I mean, when you went on then with Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, which is just my joy. I love Prince of Persia: Sands of Time.
Me too.
I just I mean, yeah, but how did it feel to see the game in such a different way to when you first started, making
Well,
games?
I mean, it was an interesting. I mean, it was a challenge, but again, I think it just came about at just the right time, because in like 2001, 2002, when Ubisoft, approached me and said, "Hey, we've got a new studio in Montreal, and we're thinking of bringing back Prince of Persia. Would you like to be involved?" And my first reaction was, "How Broderbund just did a 3D Prince of Persia, and it
Yeah.
didn't work that well.
Yeah.
How good is Prince of Persia really going to
Gonna
be in
translate.
3D?" But I went up to Montreal and met the team, and when I saw what they were doing on the PlayStation 2, and it was actually a very quick set of animation tests. I think something that had taken like a day to put together with just a stick figure, but doing all these, you know, running, running up a wall, climbing up a ladder, doing these sort of Cirque du Soleil type moves,
It's like your
using vertical
animation.
space as well as horizontal. And most of those moves actually didn't make it into the game,
Yeah.
but the spirit there, and like it was kind of like the light bulb went off. It's like, okay, it's 3D. It's not just horizontal, like running on platforms, like which Tomb Raider had already done and Prince of Persia 3D had already done, kind of literally translating 2D Prince of Persia into a 3D space. But this was vertical, it was dynamic, and so okay, if you can chain together movements fluidly in 3D space with as much smoothness and speed as we were able to do it in a 2D game with the original Prince of Persia, like that's exciting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I moved to Montreal and joined the team on that project. But we knew that we were making a game for an audience that was a lot of them would not know the first Prince of Persia. They were just too young to have played it the first time around. But at the same time, it had to be Prince of Persia. And we knew the game so well, and a lot of the you know even some of the younger guys on the team had, because they'd studied old school games,
Yeah.
they knew
Yeah.
about it and they had played it. So it had to kind of have the DNA of Prince of Persia, but we recombined the elements in a different way. Yeah, the idea was to sort of take the spirit, but it's not literally the same prince trying to save a princess in the same palace. It's
Exactly.
just it's not another 1001 Nights story, kind of from the same universe that the first game.